The Roman Republic is the other period that I want to talk to you about in antiquity. So the Roman time, the Roman period is very long. It had the Roman kingdom, a Roman republic, and a Roman empire. One of the figure that I think is important is Cicero, who again later on will be widely commented, and he wrote something called De Republica, which was rediscovered as a palimpsest, which is when you rewrite on a piece of paper, and then they rediscovered that the piece of paper was De Republica by Cicero. So Respublica is translated as politeia. I mean, it's the translation of the Greek politeia, which means commonwealth. It is the thing of the people. The res publica est res populi, which means the thing public, the commonwealth, is the thing of the people, which gives an idea of ownership by the people. Another idea that he puts forward is that the state, in Latin civitas, is the association of citizens under the law. And only in a state in which the people has the highest power does liberty have a home. Now, liberty is shared power and public deliberation. In the Middle Ages, as I said, in the beginning, Justinian I wrote this Corpus Juris Civilis, which is a collection of all the laws of the Roman Empire and previous laws. It's also a collection of all the opinions by the most famous legal scholars of the time, and also some new laws, because law changes all the time. And this is exactly what is being discussed in the universities that are being established in the 11th century, the first one being in Bologna. They teach at three faculties: faculties of medicine, because you need people to cure the individual body; the faculty of theology, because you need people to take care of the individual soul; and the faculty of law, because you need to take care of the social body. So they read this Corpus Juris Civilis, and they come from all over Europe, just like you, well, on Zoom, but all over Europe to study, and then have this Roman law background, which gives them all the concepts, and go to adapt them in their home countries to their customs and laws. So this is a period where kingdoms are being established based on these ideas, and Christianity is also being established. And we have an interpretation of the scriptures at the time that says that Jesus Christ gave two swords. One sword to the Pope for power over the spiritual realm, and one sword to the king for power over the earthly realm. So we have if you want, organization of society where God is the ultimate source of power on top, and God only talks to the Pope. The Pope is the only person who can decipher what God has to say, and he has the bishops, so together they constitute the church. Now, the church is then above the king, who has his barons and earthly powers, who are then above the people. So at the time you have still constant battles between the kings and the noblemen, and also with the Pope, and that leads to a lot of surveillance of private life, where privacy is considered a threat for these developing states. And the example of the produce of this fight is when King John, in exchange for the recognition by the barons of his authority, granted rights to the barons, rights of freedom and taxation. Now, during the Renaissance stands for Renatio. It's a rebirth, rebirth because people rediscover these classical texts of antiquity. And Machiavelli is a sort of guide. He writes the discourses on the first decade of Titus Livius, which are comments on the books by Titus Livius, a Roman historian, and he's in favor of liberty and of a republic. And he's widely commented afterwards. Another important figure is Martin Luther. It is said apocryphically that he nailed his 95 theses on the Church of Wittenberg against the Catholic Church that he thought needed to be reformed. And that led to a very different understanding because the church would not be reforming itself. So he said, okay, so it's about the king who should do it. So instead of two swords by Jesus Christ to the church and the king, there's only one sword to the king. So that leads to a very different organization of society where God is still on top. But this time he talks directly to the king. And not only does he talk directly to the king, but he also talks directly to the people. And that has consequences to how you think of natural rights and individuals. This period, as I said, is a period of turmoil. It's divided, you can see in light blue and dark blue, between Protestant countries and in dark gray Catholic countries. The 30 Years' War, the bloodiest war in Europe so far, which ended with the Peace of Westphalia, treaties which consolidate the idea of state and sovereignty as we understand it today. And this led someone like Grotius, who was a Dutch legal scholar, Hugo de Groot, to write a book about war and peace, the Jure Bellia Pacis, about the law of war and peace. And his idea is that we have jus naturale, natural law, which is eternal and universal in nature, that give us rights as human beings. And it's the function of the state to preserve these individual rights. The rights that he considers are property and liberty. Now, these ideas throughout the Enlightenment are widely discussed. Let me first start with the English Civil War. So we still have these parliamentarians and the royalists, and they're fighting, the noblemen and the partisans of the king. So highly state of surveillance of private life. We can see in Hobbes this sort of distinction that, again, as I said, between liberty and authority, or liberty and imperium, sovereignty, where he says that liberty is not good because it's a natural state in which everyone is in state of war, so we need to have a strong state. And that's what he argues even more clearly in Leviathan. And Leviathan is also very important and interesting, not only because he has this idea of natural rights and social contract, and that the state should preserve order, but also for the first time it's this idea of a state as an external entity, a third entity, as you can see on this picture, composed of all the individuals in the state. Now, there are other people, such as Locke, for instance, who discuss these ideas of natural rights, state of nature, and social contract, and how our rights in nature and the state of society are connected. And they say that instead, in the state of nature, we are actually free. It's a good thing. We are living in bliss, and that's actually what the state should do, is to keep these rights. And this is the idea that prevails with the Bill of Rights in the English Parliament in 1689. Again, the American Declaration of Independence, the same declarations of natural rights, and very importantly, the French Universal Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen. And this declaration states very, very clearly that the goal of any political association, so the role of the state, is to conserve these natural rights defined as liberty, property, and safety. Modernity from 1800 to today is a history of consolidation then of this state and the rule of law in the state. The state develops into the idea of nation state that we have today. So citizens have better legal system and can have their rights protected against the state. All is well. No, because there is also increasing technological development. It's the Industrial Revolution. There is the development of photography, very cheap newspaper everyone can buy. So that also, again, increases possibilities for surveillance. And there is, in particular, in the US, someone who will become a Supreme Court justice, whose name is Warren, and his friend Brandeis. So he was having a party, and they came, what we can call the paparazzi, and took pictures at the party, which was a private party, and wrote in the newspapers, and he was very upset about it. And they felt that the existing legal system was not taking care of this, and so that they came with this concept of a right to privacy. And we will see this document that you will have to read, and we will discuss it in the discussion session. And this is the right to privacy that then was included in the Declaration of Human Rights. Now let me finish with looking at the present. That nowadays we have even stronger liberal democracies, the rule of law, citizens are widely protected, their rights are protected from the state. But what is new is the new development in technologies, and particularly the digitalization of society, internet, and non-state actors, which now are putting a threat to liberty and privacy. And this is the discussion that we can have nowadays with Rike about the legal settings and if our legal apparatus is up to date or if we need something new to defend against this new external authority, our liberty. Thanks.